just because you always have, because maybe it was a necessity to get you to where you are today.
Right. So when you're focusing on people, you're focusing on a team. So the team is really an organism, and you've got to take care of that organism or it's going to become infected, die off, whatever that looks like. That's a powerful point and insight into that. Switching gears just ever so slightly. So you are a wife and a mother, and you've been helping others and also running businesses yourself. And life is complex when you have children. When you have a spouse, it's already complex. But then you have children, it adds a whole different level of complexity. So as you've been running a business, doing your best to be a great wife, a great mother, can you just talk on, I would say, that experience a little more broadly, and then maybe drill down on 3 things that you think were pivotal, that you came to understand, that really helped you do well on both sides of that coin, both as a professional and as a woman of family?
That's a really interesting question, Nick. And I'm going to say, I don't think I've done it well the whole time. There's definitely moments where I need to take a time out. And I would say I have a little added complexity because, our company, I'm in business with my husband. And so what's really important is that we support one another in business, but then also separate that and support one another, personally. And sometimes those are very intertwined and sometimes those are very separate. And to be able to recognize that, and then show up for that person at that moment, is super important. I would say I'm still a work in progress. I try to do that. I think what has been a huge blessing running these companies is the flexibility. We're able to, I was lucky enough to be able to drop my kids off and pick them up from school every day. And they might not see that as a blessing. Maybe they do, but it was a blessing for myself, or my husband. If it wasn't me, it was him. It was always one of us picking up and dropping off. And you can't get that time back. But I would also say the core values we bring to our company are the same core values we have in our household. And, it's the work hard, play hard mentality, which can be a bit of a cliche, but we embrace it. And, really approaching, there's a reason it's work hard, play hard, and not play hard, work hard. The work comes first. And so we feel like we've been able to give that framework to our kids as well. And so we're really fortunate. But, as you're supporting a spouse or they're supporting you, just understanding each other and where you're showing up. And, sometimes I don't really subscribe to the idea of work-life balance. I look at it as a pendulum. I think, when you say work-life balance, you think of it as an even 50-50 split. And I think that's completely incorrect. I think of it as a pendulum swinging, right? There's some times where you're going to have to work in your business 90% of the time. And then there's times where you're going to show up for your family 90% of the time. As long as the pendulum continues to swing and it doesn't get stuck on one side or the other for an extended period of time, I think that's how I define work-life balance. I think it is, you need to just be there at those moments in time, and your family needs to understand that this isn't a moment that you need to be at work at this moment in time. And again, it's just a swing. And I think that's where people can find a lot more joy, is if they embrace the pendulum versus getting so stuck in the idea of it's 5 o'clock, I have to leave, I have to go see my, see my kids. And I just said, I picked my kids up every day from school, and I did, but I would come back to the office and continue to work while they were doing their homework and supporting, that sort of thing. So it isn't that same traditional 8 to 5 kind of mentality.
Yeah, that makes sense. No, that's great. One of the things I heard you say, which I really liked, was the core values that we have at work are the same values we have at home. What did you do to kind of marry those two together? Because someone who's not used to that kind of dynamic, wait a second, I got to take my work values and take them home and take my home values to work. And that sounds like it could be kind of awkward. How did you walk through that and mesh those two together?
Nick, I don't think initially it was a verbal, like, this is what we're going to do. I don't think it was as intentional as I'd like everyone to believe. But I think it was an evolution. And, I said before, you bring your whole self to work. And I think that's kind of how it happened was, myself and Paul, my husband, we brought ourselves to work. And that was that work hard, play hard mentality that, just because the world says no doesn't mean it can't be a yes. Right. And that's the attitude of an entrepreneur. And, we started our company in 2008. What a time to start a company. Right. We got the capital for our company, starting our company, by selling one of our cars. That's how we got our capital, because there wasn't a bank in the world that was going to issue any sort of loan whatsoever.
No, right.
And so, we had to work hard. I mean, that was it. We would, after the kids went to bed, we were back at it, trying to get this off the ground. And that pendulum was a little bit further to that side for a period of time. But we recognized that one of the big reasons we were doing this is to be present for our kids. And so we moved that pendulum back and just really made the most of the time during the day and focused on those important activities.
That's cool. That's great. Thanks for commenting on that. And it's personal, so it's natural for you to do that. That's awesome. So I want to go and now in a kind of back to the business direction, navigating kind of the tech-driven nature of the C-suite and all the different types of technology that are out there. There's a new buzzword right now, right? And it's AI. But buzz doesn't build strategy. So what shifts are you seeing in the C-suite and entrepreneurial landscape due to technology? It's my first question. And the second question, how can leaders prepare to lead well in a fast-paced, evolving environment?
I think it's such an interesting time to be involved in this, right? Funny, I recall several years ago, someone I was interacting with at the time brought up this Time magazine interview of a Fortune 500 CEO. And the CEO was talking about, wow, this is such a competitive landscape. And, we've never had to move so fast and be so, open to change and zigging and zagging. And, obviously the words they use much more eloquently. And, and so then, the conversation was, when was this article written? And everybody is, guessing whatever it was. It was written in the 1960s.
Oh, wow.
And it's the same today, isn't it? The market could never have been more complex, more competitive, and changing so quickly. And
fascinating.
Yeah, you just kind of smile and think, what I'm going through today is the same perspective as someone from in the 1960s. It is faster. There's more, information. Information doesn't necessarily equal wisdom. I think that's a big important piece.
Probably also relative to the situation, right? It's like, what have you come to expect? If you've come to expect something and there's an advancement beyond that, that leads to greater complexity, greater issues. So it's relative, right? So I think that's the way it's translatable. You could say, that was in the 60s.
Yeah.
Doesn't apply to today. The reality is the truth is the truth. So if those principles apply in the 60s, in the 1800s to today, those truths don't change.
Absolutely. I agree. It is completely relative. So what do I think about, how am I seeing people use AI? How am I using AI? I think the first thing that I would say is treat AI as a team member and not a software. And that's a really big shift. I would say it can be incredibly useful as a jumping off point for many things. If I have a difficult email, let's say, to write, it's, not going to be a very popular outcome for the receiver. I'm going to write it and then I'm going to filter it through AI because it's very likely going to say it better and more concisely. But I would say, so if AI is a teammate for you, it's probably also a teammate for your staff. So what's important about that? I think you have to set, like any piece of technology, you have to set guidelines and understand. So if the software that you're choosing to use, if it's ChatGPT, Perplexity, Napkin AI, whatever it is, you have to understand what are the parameters that I'm playing in? Is the information I put in here, is it going out to the universe to help the software learn? Is it staying inside my company's profile? How is this what I'm putting in interacting with the software? I think that's really important. And then you have to relay that to your employees because they may or may not understand that. They may or may not understand, hey, I put together a corporate subscription. We need to use that. You don't go to your personal subscription because now that goes into the universe, or I can't control if it does or doesn't go into the universe. So you have to, just like any other software, I think you have to have guidelines. My personal filter for software is it's a tool and it's always evolving. So you really need to understand, am I looking at a new piece of software, let's say a CRM system, for example, because it's the new shiny thing? Or am I looking at it because there's really strategic value in me changing? Because it is really expensive to change softwares. And we've been conditioned to always want the new thing, right? But I would say that is important to continue to look to see what else is out there, but it doesn't mean you have to chase it all the time.
Right. I like what you said. Treat AI as a team member, not a software. Mm-hmm. And in my own short journey right now with AI and using, like you said, ChatGPT and some of those other tools to help refine a message, help you think through something that you can't quite get answers on, that you don't have someone else to bounce things off of. What I've heard from people as well is, don't go to it for, let's say, absolute truth, especially if you're dealing with complexities. You've got to go to, i.e., the professionals who can help interpret some of that. Would you say that's accurate?
I agree. There's been plenty of news articles and write-ups to say, this professional relied strictly on AI and now it was wrong and shame on them. And it's right, shame on them. But it is a great jumping off point and it can give you incredible insight and point you in the direction that you need to, either validate the information or just gives you a different thought process like, oh my gosh, I wasn't even thinking that direction. Now I'm going to, use my creative buffer day to sit and think, is this the right strategy? That's how I see it, being a teammate, like any other teammate, unless they're, the expert, they're, it's a conversation.
Right. Right. Yeah. I love the aspect of it, thinking of it as a team member. I think that's a really healthy way to look at it, because I imagine people who aren't using AI or kind of feel I've got to stay away from this because it's unfamiliar, and I've seen that with people who are younger, 30s or 40s, and older. Older typically is more natural to not want to learn new technologies. What would you say to someone, Stephanie, who's not over the hump yet with understanding or just leaning into some of this new technology to use it for, again, not as a truth source, but something that can benefit their activity in the workplace?
I think that it's an absolute mistake to not be open for growth. As soon as you're not open for growth, if that's learning or being creative or considering new ideas, you might as well sell your business and hang up your shingle, because you have to be open to growth. I do think that there's unintended consequences. If you say, you know what, I'm just going to let this AI thing shake out. I know it's important, but let's give it a couple of years and see, and then I'll start embracing. I think there's some unintended consequences there. For example, if your staff is using it unbeknownst to you, and now that proprietary information is going in the universe because you haven't given them the tools they feel they need to succeed, that's an unintended consequence. And so, again, I think it is looking at things from will this help my business or is it a distraction? I think that's a really important filter. But the idea that you're looking at it and considering, even if the answer is no, that's okay. But it's coming from a place of understanding and consideration versus just I'm putting my blinders on. And that's a really dangerous place to be.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I've even run into folks who have spoken and said, well, not even talking about AI, but ways that they just denied new technology. And then in hindsight, wish that they hadn't done that.
I have a really funny story about, my in-laws are, my father-in-law is 80, my mother-in-law is, I think, 78. And they went to Italy last summer and they went off the beaten path. They've been several times. They speak fluently. They would tell you they don't, but they definitely do. And so they went off the beaten path. Not so many tourists, definitely not very many Americans. And they got some help from some to get onto this train in some small town, to get to another small town. They were on this train. They got some help with their baggage from this train staff, right? The staff. And staff said, hey, we're just going to leave your luggage here. This car, the air conditioning's not working. So why don't you pop into this other train car, air conditioning, you'll be much more comfortable. They're like, okay. Felt a little uncomfortable leaving their bags unattended to, but they did that. And they went back to get their bags. It was kind of time to get off, and their bags weren't there. And they started, found the employees, and they tried to tell them, oh, that you must not have brought your bags. You must have left them before, they didn't make it onto the train. They're trying. Now, remember, they speak Italian. So that's really surprising to these train employees that these elderly Americans speak Italian. I mean, I hate to be so, general but it's a pretty good generalization. But, and this is the technology part, they both have iPhones that they're very comfortable with, and they had AirTags in their luggage, which was very unexpected for the train staff. And so my father-in-law opens his iPhone and, find my AirTag, and all of a sudden they hear it beeping just a few seats back. The train employees had hidden their luggage, same train car, but back so they couldn't be seen. And sure enough, they're like, oh, there's our luggage. And the train staff was all flustered. Well, if they wouldn't have, embraced that technology and learned what is an iTag? How do I use it? What's my they would have lost their luggage.
Wow. Well, that's a story where, technology literally saved them and an aspect of their life. Wow. That's crazy.
Isn't that crazy?
They must have had fun telling you guys that story.
Oh, they definitely did. Yes, it was they do enjoy that story.
That's awesome.
It's interesting.
That's cool. That's fun. Mm-hmm. Well, Stephanie, thanks for taking the time to talk today, to walk through these things. Whether you're managing a business or building a financial plan, the common thread is stewardship, making decisions today that shape your future. At Hershey Financial Advisors, we call this the better way. A process that moves you from uncertainty to clarity, from planning to action, and from complexity to simplicity. Stephanie, thanks again for joining us and sharing your insight today.
Thanks so much, Nick. I really had fun.
Once you reach the age of 73, you have to start taking what is called required minimum distributions. Now, the required minimum distribution is calculated by taking your IRA balance. So let's use simple numbers here. If you have $1 million in your IRA balance, you're at age 73, and you now want to take, you're now required